I'd like to introduce Jacky from the United States, who uses LDN for multiple sclerosis. Thank you for joining me, Jacky.
Hi, Linda. It's nice to be talking to you.
Thank you. Could you tell us when you first started to notice there was something wrong with you, your earliest MS symptoms?
Well, I think I started exhibiting MS symptoms as a child because I had heat intolerance and fatigue even as a child that was not, I did not see those types of problems in other children that I played with. And I never knew what was wrong with me. I was diagnosed with MS at the age of, I think I was 32 or 33. I'm now 60 years old. And I guess it wasn't a surprise to me because I had had unexplainable types of problems all along. So when I went to see a neurologist for back problems and pain that wouldn't go away and walking problems, I guess I wasn't surprised that he told me I had MS, and I had to look up what it was because I'd never heard of it and I didn't know anybody that had it. From that point on, I mean, a lot of people when they're diagnosed with MS, they break down and think their life is over. I was actually excited that a doctor had put a name to what was wrong with me because I felt like now that I knew what I was dealing with, I could go forward and fight back. And that's pretty much the same attitude that I have today. I'm still fighting back. I'm still working against it. I have to say that I'm winning the war, and the reason why I hesitated to do the interview is because when I started taking LDN 7 years ago, there were no noticeable changes, but over the last 7 years, I have not had a single MS flare-up. Some things with MS have gotten worse. Some things have gotten better. In the past couple of years, I've changed my diet after listening to Dr. Terry Walls and trying to follow the Walls protocol, which is a paleo diet. I also work out at home, and my neurologist has taken me off of all medication. He said there's no sign of activity with the MS that I'm dealing with, and there's no reason for me to be taking medication that doesn't serve a purpose, which I agree with. But I continue to take LDN.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it, for the number of years that you've actually had MS,
yes,
to be as well as you are. Before you started LDN, how did you hear about it, and how did you manage to get a doctor to prescribe it, etc., etc.?
Well, oh wow, I don't remember how I first heard about it, but as soon as I did hear about it, I immediately started Googling it, and I started finding the LDN websites. There are some LDN websites that have listed approved pharmacies that compound it correctly. When I asked my doctor if I could go on LDN, he was completely willing. He didn't see any problem with it. However, he tried to get me to have it compounded locally. When I called the local hospital that was offering the prescription, I talked to the pharmacist and I asked them to explain to me how they prepare the medication. Now, thanks to the LDN websites, in that they're very clear as to how the drug is compounded correctly and what to do and what not to do, I was able to listen to how they were compounding it and figure out that they were doing it wrong. So then I went back to the website and I found a compounding pharmacy in a neighboring state that did it correctly, and I get my LDN sent to me through the mail. So my neurologist faxes them my prescription, they fill it, and then they send it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked out really well, and thank God for that website, because I wouldn't have known that they were doing it incorrectly.
Well, that's good. So can you remember if you had any side effects when you started LDN?
I had no side effects whatsoever. Now, I have a roommate that is also struggling with MS. In fact, I helped him write 2 books because his story was so astounding to me. He was paralyzed from the neck down, and about a month or 2 ago, he talked his neurologist into letting him go on LDN, and he had anxiety attacks, so he stopped taking it. I've had no side effects whatsoever. In fact, if I forget to take it, I can't even tell that I haven't taken it. So, like I explained to you on Facebook, I'm taking it by faith.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it's doing what it claims to do. I know that I'm getting it from a compounding pharmacy that compounds it correctly, so I'm getting all of its benefits. And since the rest of the MS drugs on the market are pretty much poison and have nasty side effects, I would just like to stay on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, since you are doing so well and your neurologist doesn't think you need any other medication, that's a big deal in itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yes. And in the past, the neurologist that I go to is at a teaching hospital. It's a very, very, very large facility, and they teach a lot of physicians. They do their residency there. So about every year or 2, my neurologist changes because they cycle in and out. And in the past, I've had 1 or 2 that have refused to write the prescription because they didn't understand it, they didn't see any benefit of it, they didn't know enough about it, they didn't. When I asked them if I could give them the website so they could look at it themselves, they said things like, I'm not being paid to do extra research, or that's not part of my training, or, just ignorant excuses. So I just didn't go back to see those neurologists. I would find a different neurologist. I just kept checking until I would get a neurologist that was willing to write the prescription for me and let me be on the drug.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what other people have to do too, because I read on Facebook a lot that they talk to their neurologist about LDN and their neurologist won't write the prescription, or they can't figure out where to get it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't stand for that. I would just you have your own health that you're fighting for. I would just keep fighting.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.